track and field at the top of the SportsMax zone. Jamaican sprinter Yohan Blake may hang up his spikes after the 2024 Olympic Games set for Paris. The 33-year-old is a four-time Olympic medalist and the 2011 100-meter world champion. Track and field fans may remember Blake handing the baton to Bolt when Jamaica smashed the men's sprint relay world record at the London 2012 Olympics. Blake, who finished sixth in the 100 meters at last year's World Champs in Oregon, says he will focus on the 100 and the 4x1 relay for the rest of his career. This is what he said in an interview with Midday.com writer Himal Asher. Doing the 200, 100 and relay simply takes a lot out of you. So these are the events I want to focus on. All right, Leighton, my question to you now after hearing what Yohan Blake has said. Is Paris 2024 a fair departure time for Blake?
I think so. I think for many reasons. One of the things that for the past few years, a lot of people have been calling for Yohan Blake to retire. I don't know why. Except for 2020, he's been under 10 seconds for the 100 in every single year since he recovered from that those injuries to his hamstring, the last of which was in Glasgow in 2014. Now, 985 at the national championships last year tells me that he's ready to run even faster. Why? Because that was the fastest time he's run since he ran 969 in 2012.
Yeah.
Had it not been for injury, I think he would have done better at the World Championships, because I think 985 would have probably put him on the podium. But you can't account for injuries, and that's what has been plaguing him for the past few years. Will he last until 2024? I don't see any reason why he shouldn't. Blake doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't party, he takes care of his body, and he trains hard. And based on what we saw from his progress last season, if he's able to stay healthy, there's no reason why at 35, because he will turn 36 in December of 2024, why he can't run under 10 seconds and possibly make a final and possibly end up on the podium. I don't see anybody out there right now, Fred Curley included, who is tearing up, pulling up trees on the track. I mean, yeah, we've been spoiled by what Usain Bolt, Tyson Gay, Asafa Powell, and Yohan Blake himself has done a decade ago. But right now, I don't see where there's anybody who is that much better than what he's been able to do.
Yeah, and you were not surprised by the news coming out, of course, because you're fully aware that, he's battled with injuries, and there comes a point in your time where you have to step away. Is this the right time to step away?
I think so. Look, Blake is fiercely competitive, and I think given that a number of his years had gone down the drain because of that injury, I think he probably wants to see how far he can take it. The decision to just focus on the 100, I think, is actually the better decision, because one of the issues I had last year was him taking on the 200 as well. But as he said in that quote, the 200 and the 100 and the 4x1 takes a lot out of you. So focus on the 100 and, of course, the 4x1, which is just another 100-meter leg. And, conserve that energy, and maybe we can see 9.7 something out of him. Because last year, when I saw him at the National Stadium running 9.85, there were areas of that race that could have been better. Had they been better, 9.7 was a possibility. So at 35, I mean, we've seen Justin Gatlin come back and win the World Championships at 36, I think it was. So there's no reason why Yohan Blake can't go on to Paris in 2024 and do something special. He might not even medal. The fact is that he could get to the final, which in itself is an accomplishment, because he's had a sterling career. And had it not been for Yohan Blake, for Usain Bolt's presence, Blake would have been Olympic champion in 2012 in both the 100 and 200.
Yes.
1944 in the 200-meter final and 975 in the 100-meter final tells you the quality of the young man. And he works hard, and he trains hard, and takes care of himself, and he's dedicated to the sport. So I think, while there have been a lot of naysayers out there, because there's this tendency to believe that once an athlete is not good enough to be, or potentially not be on the podium anymore, suddenly they're not good enough for us. He knows what he's capable of, and I think if he believes that he can take it to 2024 and still run fast, who am I to say different?
Yeah, and I'm listening to you, and of course you're giving him the benefit of the doubt. You said, he can either medal or he can go there and not medal. Of course, and you also said we only like athletes when they perform very well, right? I think, Leighton, we have to remember that the track and field population in Jamaica and around the Caribbean are very spoiled in the sense that you're so used to athletes winning and bringing home gold. Jamaican women, for example, 1, 2, 3, that, I can't say that they're being unfair because they're so used to these successes.
Yeah, and you're right. We've been spoiled by what we've seen from Paul, Yohan Blake, Richard Thompson from Trinidad and Tobago, Mark Burns. There was that period, about 15-year period, when the Caribbean was at the pinnacle of sprinting in the world. That's not the case anymore, except for the women, Jamaican women, I should say. That's not the case anymore. A lot of those athletes are now retired or retiring, and that era has passed. Yohan Blake is still competing, and to give the benefit of everything, 985 was one of the fastest times in the world last year. So there is no reason to believe that he's suddenly incapable of pulling off something spectacular. And this is Yohan Blake we're talking about. 1926, 969 in a minus 0.1 wind. Had he run a better curve in 1926, he would be the fastest man in the world. And had he had a 1.5 wind on the 969, he would be holding the world record right now in the men's 100 meters. He is an extraordinary athlete whose career has been blighted a bit by injury. But Yohan Blake, he looks like he's back physically. And there's no reason to believe that he can't carry this on for another 2 years. I mean, it's not like he's going to go out all of a sudden and start partying and doing ridiculous things. This is who he is.
Agreed. But can you ever come back fully from a hamstring injury? Because we saw how great he was before that. And of course, we've seen him, break hearts, get his own heart broken on the track after suffering that hamstring injury.
Yeah, look, the hamstring injury, listen, there are two ways to look at this. That hamstring injury would have ended most people's careers.
Yeah.
That he's able to continue running a decade after that hamstring, after recovering from that, is testimony itself to the nature of that beast. We used to call him the beast. Arina Privalova from Russia, 100 meter, 200 meter runner back in the 1990s, used to compete against Marinotti, had a similar injury. She came back and ran the 400 meter hurdles because she couldn't find that explosive power anymore. Yohan Blake came back from injury and has had many years running under 10 seconds, except for, I think it was 2020 when he ran 10.15 as season's best. But he's been under 10 seconds every year except that year.
Yeah.
So that in itself for me is a victory over that injury. And the fact that he ran 985 last year, I keep going back to that, you truly can't get back to that level because not only just injury, but there's the age factor as well.
And that's where I want to go next.
Yeah. So there's the age factor. But would he get back? Can he get back to 9.7? I think so. Based on what we saw last year, I don't think 9.7 is out of the realm of possibility. 9.95 is only less than 0.05 seconds from 9.7. So, a little tweak here and there. He's been training well. He's extremely strong. There's no reason why he can't run 9.7. If he runs 9.7 in Paris, who knows? He might end up on the podium.
Exactly. And you mentioned age just now, and instantly I remember thinking about, we like to say age is just a number. But for athletes and when you're in competitive sport, it tends not to just be a number. Yeah. Unless you're like Shelly-Ann Fraser-Pryce.
I was just about to say that.
Right? But I just want to bring this point into the discussion that the things that your body would have done 5 years ago, 10 years ago, it's always difficult to do the same things again. Even our recovery, if you tear a muscle, the time it would take to recover back when I was younger versus now, it's two different things. Mm-hmm. So will that play a factor as well as the mental aspect of knowing that you've been starved of these medals year after year because of an injury?
Yeah, and look, I think for many years, Yohan's biggest problem was in his head more than physically. But I think last year, based on what we saw last year, he would have finally overcome that hurdle.
Yeah.
As for the physical side of it, I don't think he can get back to 9.69, but he can get within a tenth of a second because of the evidence that we saw last year. He's as strong as ever. and he's as dedicated as ever. And he saw him on the hills early in the preseason, and he looks incredibly strong. So while age may be a factor, and you raise the Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price example, Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price at 35 ran 7 times under 10.6, under 10.7, sorry. All Yohan Blake has to do is run under 10.8 once next year in 2024, and he could be a medalist. So, you know.
Yeah, and of course, how important will it be for him to just, exit his career, end his career on a high note with a medal?
Yeah, and look, and even if he doesn't medal, if he gets to the final in Paris in 2024, I think he can walk away with his head held high.
Yes.
Because he would have when you get to the final of an Olympics or World Championships, it's not, people scoff at it, but it means that you're among the fastest men in the world in that particular year, the top 8 fastest men in the world. In a world of almost 8 billion people now. If you're among the top 8, not 800, not 8,000, the top 8 in the world, that's a significant accomplishment.
I agree, but you're saying that against the population, people.
Yeah, people say things, and people always have their own aspirations of what they want you to do.
But even us, Leighton, for our own selves, we want to do the best that we can. And, I would do a show today, and tomorrow I'm like, oh, I think I messed that up. I would have loved to do it differently. Yeah. So even personally, Yohan probably would have been hard on himself. And of course, we all want to achieve the best.
Yeah, but as I've been told so many times by so many close friends of mine, you can't give nothing but your best. And if
Agreed.
You give your best, you can't be dissatisfied because you give it your all.
Yes. Well, of course, we're wishing Yohan Blake all the best in Paris Olympics 2023. And of course, Leighton, I know you'll be keeping in touch, trying to get all the scoop as we lead up to that. So looking forward to that information.
I think he's going to probably do well at the World Championships in Budapest as well this year.
All right. Well, let's take a break and come right back. Stay with SportsMax on YouTube and follow us on all social pages for updates, news and entertainment.